Good evening, everyone. My name is Meah-Morgan, and today I would like to present to you a bit of data that I have collected that compares the similarities and differences for the near me searches from the US versus Louisiana. We'll get a little more in depth with the state of Louisiana and what near me searches are searched more rather than not, and which ones had like the top three for the state and around which time. So as you can see here, these two line graphs compare the US to Louisiana for just the near me searches. So when putting in the word near me into the Google bar, this is what we have thus far. And this goes from September of 2024, September 15th, 2024, all the way to September 14th of 2025. So I find it to be fresh and accurate based off of last year's results leading up until this day. We have Louisiana in yellow and we have the US in purple. Now again, this is just for the near me searches in Google when they were put in. So as you can see, Louisiana stays relatively close. However, it peaks drastically March 2nd, 2025. It continues to stay close for the near me searches and has a lot of similarities with other states in the US as a whole until we get to around July 13th and in those summer months. However, falling right on track with the US near me searches again in August. With that, I have some rising interest that I would like to show you on the top three near me searches for the state of Louisiana. Again, from September 15th, 2024, all the way to September 15th, 2025. The top three near me searches in the Google bar were Buccee's, TWIC, and Pilates. Here we have the Buccee's near me searches, and you can see it is searched every month, probably around the middle of the month, I would like to say. It peaks. It'll drop, but it'll peak. Other than when we get to March through May, we do see a little bit more activity for that Buccee's until it drops at the end of May, beginning of June, and then picking back up yet once again in that June, July area, only to drop off in the beginning of August to later pick up as August and September flow through. For the Pilates, it seems it stays pretty on par that it is searched relatively throughout the month, never just peaking, but staying pretty high up there. And then, really interesting, the TWIC cards peak once in March, stays stagnant, and peaks yet again in August and September. I find this to be very interesting and telling. This would be the wild card that I chose to present the data on, basically the near me searches versus the US searches for the fiscal year in a bar graph, because Louisiana seems to search more than the US for near me places, and I find that very interesting. And the near me searches and the Pilates searches are the exact same. We see a dip in the TWIC and then Buccee's up there in the 2000s. Now, as a Louisiana native, no longer a resident, but someone who was born and raised in the state of Louisiana, when I look at this comparison, immediately I'm able to justify in what my brain believes is being searched. Now, that is just my opinion, but again, as someone who lived in Louisiana for a very large portion of their life, I feel safe to say I can dictate just about what was searched in these months, even though they weren't the top searches throughout the year. December 22nd, I'm pretty sure near me searches are high just because family is visiting from out of state. So they're not familiar with where things are and they're probably looking for the liquor store. Fun fact, we don't really have one. We don't have state liquor stores. You can buy liquor at the gas station. So they didn't have to go far. We see a huge peak in this March area. This is great and it falls right on par with what I wanted. I 100% believe crawfish near me is likely what was searched. That or parades near me, Mardi Gras near me, because this is the exact prime time of when Mardi Gras tends to fall throughout the year. Now, Mardi Gras changes based on Easter. So, again, I believe this to be true because Louisiana has very religious views, and Catholics will not eat meat during Lent. Things have changed a little bit, and some Catholics believe in not eating meat till Friday, like not eating meat on Fridays during Lent, but some old school Catholics do not eat meat at all during the length of Lent. And so, Mardi Gras is like the last hoorah before everybody like hunkers down and just doesn't eat meat, doesn't really drink, doesn't really party. We kind of just focus on ourselves and our family. And you are supposed to spend every Friday and Sunday with your family. Friday through Sunday, but people have knocked it down to Friday and Sunday because what we're doing on Saturdays, well, if you were there, you know. If you weren't there, you don't need to know. So moving forward, we see another peak again in April. And again, crawfish season usually goes from about the best crawfish when I would eat crawfish as a native would be Valentine's Day through about the 4th of July. Crawfish really, really peaks in that March, April area. Easter usually falls in April, sometime around there. So I believe that that's why people are looking for sacks of crawfish, live crawfish. They want to ball it for their family. So you got to kind of know like where you can get it and where you can't. So I think people are just like searching crawfish shops because it's really hard to get live sacks of crawfish around these time periods because everyone wants live crawfish. So you are just searching up crawfish near you, like live sacks of crawfish near you, because who you usually go to probably maybe out. And if you don't have that one-on-one connection, they did not save you a live sack of crawfish for you and your family, okay? So you gotta build that rapport with that person, and you almost have to have like family generations of rapport with that company or that business. So it's real tough. It's real tough to get your hands on a sack of crawfish. And just because you get that sack of crawfish doesn't mean that those are like grade A crawfish. Sometimes, beggars can't be choosy. Again, we see another spike in May. Crawfish season is about to start dwindling down relative to what I said. June, Father's Day is usually around the last week that I would eat crawfish. Now, that doesn't mean that that's everybody, but when you're educated, you're educated. And if you know, you know. But again, that doesn't go for everyone. I personally worked with live sacks of crawfish. I've personally worked with crawfish for a very long time, in and out of the business. And so it is its own industry. And like I said, I personally would not eat crawfish past Father's Day, but that's me. Rising interest, again, I find this real interesting. Buckee's. So first and foremost, if you are not a Louisiana native, you don't know this information, but Buckee's is actually being built in Louisiana, and my hometown Lafayette is getting its location, Louisiana's first location, and they decided to put it in Lafayette. So I can see how this would be like a search, and so I think word is out. But this has been in the making for like 6 years, but word is like finally starting to get out, and I think that people are just like trying to see like when's it gonna be done, any updates on Buckee's, because if you are a Southerner, you know Buckee's is the spot. Okay. Also found this interesting TWIC cards. So TWIC near me, the TWIC office. Again, if you are not a Southerner, not a Louisianimal, you probably don't know this, but what a TWIC card essentially is I'm not sure if it's a federal ID, but it is what allows you to work with petroleum. So you cannot work with petroleum, aka like work in the plants, work offshore, with the tugboats, et cetera, if you do not have a TWIC card. So if you're going to work in the oil industry, you have to have that TWIC card. You're not going to get a job otherwise. So I find it really interesting, and I'm thinking that maybe everyone just needed to like renew their TWIC card, and so they may have forgot where the office is. That's possible. Again, maybe here we have some newcomers that are coming in for college possibly, and they're like, oh, like, well, my classes may be online, or that job makes a lot of money. Let me work this job, thinking maybe they could work that job while they go to college, but it is very strenuous. I wouldn't recommend. If you happen to hold down both, you are killing the game. Pilates, love Pilates. I find it really interesting that it's spiking in this December time frame. Maybe families over to visit and people are just in their routine and they want to do Pilates. I'm not 100% sure as to why it's so high in that December frame, but yeah. In my wild card, as you can see, US, relatively the same as Louisiana, but Louisiana trumps the near me searches. And this one comes by surprise. Pilates is searched just as much as the near me searches for Louisiana, so that's really interesting. TWIC card only searched 141 times and back to Buccee's. So yeah, I think this is real interesting. And to the developers, I think that we need to build more Pilates. Like, hello, people love Pilates. So it's clear you can, like, if you would like to own Pilates, a Pilates studio in Louisiana, you could probably make real good money. And if you have your Pilates certification, you might be making real good money because it's searched quite often. So I think the developers need to take that into consideration. And this data is fresh and it is new from September 15th, 2024 to September 14th, 2025. So this is relatively new data that I've collected and for the past 365 days for the state of Louisiana in comparison to the US. And I got it off of Google, so it is credible.